Welcome to Cast and Crank Podcast. Today we have Pat Schlauch and Jared Lintner. It's a two-parter. So Pat gets on first to talk about his company, Ritual Angling, and Jared a little, how it all came about, how he partnered up with Justin Reynolds and Randy Spicer. And so we talk about that, and then Lintner talks about the FLW, MLF, all good stuff. It's a great interview. I liked it. Bear with me on the sound. I think it sounds okay, but I don't like doing call-ins. It's not that I don't want to get people on. I just like being in studio. That's what I like about doing the podcast. So this is great. It's fun. I just want to keep putting them out, keep putting out media somehow. This will be the first of, I guess, the COVID series. So it's all call-in. And I'll still put them up on YouTube. It'll just be a picture with hearing the interview itself. I have coming up, Mike Escamillo, which is a host of a show with, I think it's Hummingbird and Motor Guide, I think. I'm not sure. I don't remember, but you guys will hear that one. It's a short one. It'll be a bonus one, I think. And then I have Bill Sementhal. That was a pretty good one. He goes into a lot of details about Mike Hart, about the bait, all kinds of stuff. It's pretty good. And then I'm going to have coming up Troy Linder and UFO Baits. So that'll be another one I'm going to do. So yeah, we're just going to try to move forward with this whole call-in thing and keep putting stuff out. I hope everyone's staying safe, doing the social distancing stuff. So yeah, we'll catch up. I'm going to keep loading old episodes on YouTube, and I do have some giveaways I'm going to try to do with a couple guys for shirts, maybe some gear. We'll see what we can do to keep everyone interested in something interesting. I don't fucking know. But I thought it'd be fun, and someone gave me some great advice on it, so I'm going to do it. Hope you guys like this episode. Next week should be, I think, Bill, or there might be a bonus episode this week with Mike. So again, thanks you guys. 5 stars if you can on iTunes, and we'll, I guess you'll hear from me next week. Later. Aloha was born in Hawaii, but the Aloha spirit holds no geographic boundaries. With Aloha as our foundation, Olukai takes a different approach to footwear. Olukai crafts only the highest quality shoes and sandals with premium materials and artistic, storied detail with a style, durability, and versatility for today's watermen and waterwomen who lead an active, ocean-bound lifestyle. In fact, Olukai's water-friendly, I'm going to try this, Nohia Maku, slip-on shoe, and ukulele sandal are actually made to get wet. Instead of me talking, I'm going to insert Benny. Benny Florentino is a guest of the podcast, and he has way more experience with this than I do. So I'd rather have you guys hear the truth than me try to give you something fake. Listen.
I've been fortunate enough to be an ambassador for Olukai for the past 5 years. And, they just came out with Ulele. It's all-day comfort footbeds and the non-marking outer sole. So for those of you who have really expensive boats, they're not going to mark the sole up. And it's non-skid. That wet grip rubber outsole for great traction on wet surfaces, phenomenal. And they look good and comfortable.
Whether you're loading up the boat with supplies at the dock, shoreline fishing from the rocks, or scoping out the best place to cast from the beach, Nohia Maku and Ulele is destined to keep you sure-footed with comfortable island style through every step of the journey. Shop or find your local retail at olukai.com. To support the podcast, go to www.olukai.com/cast and crank. Please, guys, go. If you're going to buy a pair of sandals, just go out there and get online and go to that link. It's going to help us a lot. Check it in the bio of the podcast. Thanks again for listening, guys. Sounds good, dude. Well, I guess this is how we're going to start the podcast. This is the first of the COVID series. So I don't really do call-ins, and Pat is going to do the first episode of a call-in. I'm going to try to do for the next couple months until this shit blows over, dude, because I don't even know what's going on with it. But
yeah, well, it'd be nice to talk about something other than COVID.
Yeah, exactly. How do you say your last name? I don't know how to say it.
So I go by Schlauch. There's a correct pronunciation of Schlauch, which is German, but my dad always went by Schlauch, and So I just kind of ran with.
So you
with
guys, you
that.
actually pronounce it differently than it's supposed to be, just because that's
Yeah,
how
we did.
that's funny.
Yeah.
So Pat, I met at Fred Hall this year. My buddy Joe from Performance introduced me to him, and I mean, talk about your involvement, I guess, in the fishing industry, kind of what you do and what you're doing, what company you're part of.
Yeah, right on, man. I'm a local Long Beach guy. Grew up, still live here. I was fortunate that my father worked in sporting goods his entire life. He first opened up a tackle shop at the base of the Seal Beach Pier when he was 18, 19, something right about there.
Damn.
And now he's 75. So, he was in the career ever since after that. And then he became involved with Big Five Sporting Goods when they were very at an infant stage, and worked with them for 45 years. And now he's retired, and he's a Long Beach Tuna Club member. And
So he actually got involved with Big Five. Did he do the fishing department, or was it just like everything?
he was a buyer, all different departments, but where he really loved his position was in tackle buyer, and he was a firearms and ammo buyer for a while, and then he became senior vice president of purchasing, and finished off in that role. But he also owned the Dreamer, and he was owner operator of the Dreamer, meanwhile still working at Big Five.
Wow.
When me and my brother, before we were born, and right when we were born, it was starting to get really rolling. And so I had a fortunate ability to see sport fishing at the inside of the industry, the tackle side of it, and also down to just the sport fishing side of it, which is the end user, and in a 6-pack fashion.
Yeah. And then he was buddies then with Alan then, apparently, right?
Yeah. He had to hire Alan because he had a full-time job, and the business started getting really busy. So because of that upbringing, I just kind of fell into place, fell in line, and I became a sales rep out of college. And I had real pleasure of having good lines to sell throughout the years in the different agencies I worked for, Daiwa, Shimano, and then I was shooting sports as well. But now I'm currently, as of today, I am the vice president of sales at Master Fishing Tackle.
Cool, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And there's a transition in place where I'm soon to be the owner. Should have finished up Friday, but with this COVID thing going on, the paperwork couldn't get done. But the guy, I guess I should kind of. Do you want to talk more on that, or
yeah? Well, yeah, I want to.
Man?
What's the master? What is that? So what does that actually do?
So master right now is it's all entry level price point. Everybody's got to start fishing somewhere, and the man who was co-founder, Jerry Rodstein, he gave me the opportunity to come on board 3 years ago with the intention of me taking over when he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
When he hired me, he was 85 years old, and Jerry and his brother, Harvey, were the ones who started Roddy, the vintage company everyone knows, the old, BR 90s, BR 100s. Mm-hmm. And so those guys started the fish and tackle industry. And when they were teenagers, honestly, they were buying blanks at first, I think, from Conlin, if I remember correctly, and they were just wrapping them, and then they got into actually buying rolling tables and rolling rods themselves in Gardena. And long story short, over the years, the brothers separated their ways, and Jerry kept Master as part of the deal because they also had an air tool company.
Uh-huh.
Jerry loved the fishing industry. Jerry kept it, and he just kind of was fortunate to be retired very early in life and just wanted to be involved with the industry. He didn't really care about what he was selling. You know, he just wanted to
Be part of
associate
it,
with
yeah.
his friends
Yeah.
because of the industry he'd worked in for so many years. And so it just stuck to like entry-level rod and reel combos and those Mighty Mites that you see, the little 2-foot ice fishing combos.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, it's like everyone fishes in a different way, right? Like, do
Yeah.
you do it once a year? Do you do it 200 days a year? You know, not everybody's all gung-ho, go out, catch a big bluefin. You know, some of my best memories were just fishing bass with the family on a mooring in Avalon.
Yeah. Yeah, that's completely true. I mean, even I had those little ice rods. I just buy them for my kids because they want to fuck around with them, you know, like. So, see, that's a valid point. But you also are part of another company, correct?
Yeah, Ritual Angling with Justin Reynolds and Randy Spicer and Jared Lintner, and that came into play because when I came into Master, I knew Master needed something different, you know, and something at a different price point, and still something targeted to, you know, most people's budgets.
Yeah.
You get really, really good stuff, you know, at a low price. You don't have to spend top dollar to have what you need. So I started working on some action samples from a factory that Jerry stopped doing business with like 20 years ago. And they make rods for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've walked the factories and you see everybody's name, you know?
Yeah.
And, but it's been fun, you know. So when I first started getting action samples, in progress, I knew that I needed help, on the marketing side.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've known Justin Reynolds for a really long time through association of a guy I lived with him for many years. And, I started talking to Justin about it. I said, "Hey man, I think I have the ability to, make some rods, and I'm needing help on the media side, graphic design, even the creative, you know."
Yeah.
I didn't even have a name at that point. And, so in the works, Justin came out with a name, Ritual Angling. It was just on point with what I was feeling for this brand, you know, this rod line.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was targeting bass, just general bass. You know, you really look at it and you go anywhere, any state in North America, any part in, you know, Canada, even Mexico, dude, you're going to find bass in a freshwater body.
Yeah.
You know? And, you know, that transitions into the calico bass stuff, what we do out here, and, you know, on a heavier scale, of course.
Yeah.
But a bass is a bass, and, you know, it's just kind of like, how do you want to do it and how do you want to apply them? Crankbait swims the same way as saltwater as it does in fresh for the most part, except for buoyancy. But, and then Jared Lintner got involved, and I became involved with Jared Lintner, 10 years ago, about right when he came on board. He
How long has Ritual been around for?
We introduced in ICAST of 2018, so
Okay.
July of 2018.
Okay.
So we spent, you know, quite a while getting the rods right, you know, like getting them to feel what we were looking for.
And you have a whole lineup too right now?
We have 2 series of rods.
Okay.
So we have an R1 series of rods, which is like our entry level, which are 119 to 129 MSRP.
Mm-hmm.
There's only 7 rods in that line. It's just like a quiver of what you would need to get yourself through a day, no matter what
like
application you had to fish.
Do you have a spinning rod too?
Not in the R1, we don't.
No,
we made a medium action, just a generic bass, 7-foot rod, conventional, that you could do finesse fishing with. It's not like pinpointing every little aspect of bass fishing, but what could you do with in a complete series?
Yeah.
From general jig and worm rods, crankbait rods, topwater rod, swim bait rod, and even a flipping rod. And I think for most people in general, when it comes to rods, like, it's been funny working the shows over the years, the Fred Hall shows, because you see so many people, and you could hold on to one rod and hand it to everybody that walks by, and everyone's got a different look on what they would do with it.
Yeah, I agree.
And one guy's 30-pound rod is another guy's 40-pound rod.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to be all things to all people, or the right thing to all people, I guess I should say. So
you're almost making the rod to a generalized rod. So like I might use a flipping rod for a calico stick also, or something like that. For sure. Yeah. So you're kind of making just a generalized rod at a good price point so people can use a nice fishing rod, pretty much, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much on point with what I'm trying to do.
And when was that the first series you did, was the R1?
We did them both at the same time.
Okay.
The second series of rods is a little higher price point. It's $169, $179, but it's built on a composite blank. The R1s are an IM8 blank.
Okay.
Very common in the market. And, the composite blanks in the R2 are just, crisper. You just have more feel in the blank. And we expanded that series on what we already had in the R1. So the actions in the R1 could be found in similar models or the same model in R2. Like the taper on the rod will be the same.
Yeah, and you also had Higashi help out a little on the design.
Yeah,
that's cool, man.
Because I first started off with blanks, just action blanks, you know, and if they weren't right, it's like, no, this isn't right. Let's get something else. And then Higashi with really laying out the rods. And even, I did discuss with retailers on, what actions to go forward with. I had a good understanding of selling previous brands of rods.
You've been selling in the you've worked at a couple different companies, correct? I mean, so you kind of know what people are buying. So that's kind of a helpful point, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And from all companies too, because, I really got to give my hat off to all the tackle retailers out there. It's a hard industry to be in, man. I mean, you think of all the jigs and weights and hooks and everything you have yourself.
Yeah.
They have that filled on peg hooks,
Yeah.
And more. And so you see like certain brands of rods that are selling better than others, and certain models by certain companies selling better. So yeah, I got an inside track on, the rods that people were buying and what people were into. And it's still tough to keep it narrow.
I bet.
Yeah.
And are you guys having them, how are they manufactured? So I know, like, the only rod company I had on previously was iRod, and he kind of said,
yeah, we're overseas in China.
Okay.
And Jerry had a long-standing relationship with the guy who owns the factory. I guess him and his brother, they started overseas. Geez, man, 50 years ago.
Wow.
And they went from first, like, I think it was Japan. At first, the Roddy reels were made by Daiwa. Because Jerry's brother Harvey had a relationship with someone at Daiwa for some other type of manufacturer at that time. I can't remember what it was, but if you see the old Roddy vintage reels, spinning reels, you'll see made by Daiwa on the foot of the real body. And so, when Jerry was telling all these factories that he was bringing someone on board, when I first came into Master, people were flying in from China to meet me, man. It was pretty weird.
Pretty cool, right? I mean, shit.
It was. It was, it kind of sank in at that point. Like, who Jerry was and how far back he goes just in the industry to a level aside, way beyond retail.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they do come from China. Many rods do, as everyone knows.
No, I know that. I just wonder how it goes. I like knowing the back story a little bit of the company is kind of cool.
Yeah, I can tell you, man. I got solid inventory of the rods, and we're starting to branch out into more and more retail shops locally. We first started with Tackle Warehouse, and not just because of Jared's involvement, but I had I guess more fortunate position to not have to depend on these rods for a living.
Yes.
Just like everyone else who's involved, Randy and Justin, they put a lot of creative time into this and have done an excellent job on everything they've completed. And we got day jobs, and
yeah, just like I do the podcast. Like I don't depend on the
man.
podcast.
And,
it's just a fun thing.
It's a hobby / I don't know how the scale would tip, but passion,
Yeah.
So yeah, we first started with just Tackle Warehouse to get a feel for how they were going to be accepted. Jared was planning to come on board and at the start of his MLF season, and he was gung-ho on moving forward, and so we worked out an agreement with Jared, and Jared's a really good just human being, man. He's salt of the earth, man. Arroyo Grande, his family goes back generations, and he did a great job his first year. I mean, I think he finished 16th or something overall.
It's great, right? I mean,
yeah. And he's doing it again. They're postponed because of this COVID thing, which is killing me. I thought it was going to be the only live streaming professional sport left, but unfortunately they postponed this last week, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. So now, we got them at Tackle Warehouse. We got them at a place up in Central California called Jim's Pro Bass. Really cool bass shop up there, and Jim runs a lot of tournaments and performance tackle. The previously mentioned retailers, Ketchum Tackle. He was one of the first after Tackle Warehouse, and thank you to Jason for the support and everybody.
Cool guy too.
And,
he's a nice guy.
Yeah, and recently we added on Turner's Outdoorsman and East County Bait and Tackle and Barnacle Bill's Bait and Tackle down for the San Diego crew.
Nice. And then, so you're only, I guess consider like Reynolds and Spicer, they're pro staff, but it's
man, they're marketing directors and co-owners of Ritual Angling. Man, it's been a very big group effort.
Oh no, but I mean, but like as pro staff, do you guys only really have Lintner and the Reynolds crew, I guess I could call it, with Spicer and him. And, okay.
We really haven't had, a whole lot of money to work with to do this, man. I mean, I did the rods because of my position and ability to source and work on the actions and stuff. And was lucky enough to coerce Jerry Rodstein into letting me do this. And he let me pay for the rods through Master, and it's just been a slow growth thing. I didn't want to jump too far ahead of ourselves,
which is really easy to do, right? I mean, it's
I was lucky to be able to play it on the safer side, and we have good inventory and are starting to look at more retailers, and would like any inquiries to come our way. But Jared's been a huge asset in this whole thing, and he's a really fun guy to work with, especially on the product side, because he's been bass fishing hardcore for so long, and he's fished a lot of rods, and he's just a pleasure to work with, man. We talk a lot, and openly, if something's not right, he tells me.
Is the higher end model his model?
we did recently. So yeah, I guess I mentioned we introduced in 2018, and then this past year, ICAST 2019, we introduced 5 Jared Lintner signature series rods. And these were rods that were based on some signature series rods he had years before Shimano when he was with Powell.
Okay.
And they were specialty rods. It was like the deep crank, and he had a punching rod and a spinnerbait rod, chatterbait rod, and they were 5 he really wanted to do again. And so we just worked on a few sets of action samples and got him to where he liked them. And they're in the same family as the R2, so all the Lintner rods are 169 MSRP.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you kind of just based it off of what he liked, and it's kind of his what he rolls with.
There were some things he needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
For guys like Jared, they're very particular, and they need a certain thing to fish a certain way while they're on tour, and he didn't want to be without, and I understood that. It was something we talked about long before, like when we introduced the R1s and the R2s the year earlier, and had it in mind, and made some badass rods, man. There's a 7.5 rod in that series that I like for a lot of things.
Yeah. Nice.
So yeah,
and you've known Jared for a little while. That's kind of how you guys came together on the deal, like getting him to fish for you.
Just over time, I mean, when you work for now that I have the ability to kind of autonomy to do the things wanted to be done, you can't direct a big ship to go a small direction,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know where I'm trying to say here. Help me out with what you want to know.
So I'm just talking about your relationship with Jared, like how you got him to come fish for you.
I actually got a call from one of his sponsors saying that back when I think he had a real sponsor. I think it was Abu before he went to Shimano.
Mm-hmm.
But it was kind of just like, I think it was just like a product only kind of deal. And his biggest deal was with Powell. And when that fell apart, he was looking for a sponsor, and I got a call saying, "Hey, you should talk to Jared about Shimano." And so I just threw it up the ladder, and things ended up coming together with him and Shimano. And so being the local rep, I mean, knowing product introductions, being able to call Jared and make sure he has product to be in time with introductions. I mean, we talked in depth about product over, almost 10 years now, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, right about there, probably.
Yeah.
No, not quite. 7 years, probably. 7.
I mean, you can't tell fucking these days anymore, right? Right now, we don't even know what fucking day it is.
Yeah, man. And Jared's, switch to MLF has been really good for him, man. He likes to change, and I think it's kind of put a breath of fresh air in his lungs, and had a little rough start so far, but there's a lot of season left.
Yeah. And he kind of, you guys filmed some of the stuff for Tackle Warehouse with him. I seen when he came down here and fished with Justin Spotties. That was really cool video you guys put out. Or Tackle Warehouse did. Does Tackle Warehouse come do those videos, or do you guys do them and give them to Tackle Warehouse?
Tackle Warehouse did some of their own, and then at the same time, Reynolds and Spicer would record content on their own hardware, and they do their own edit up of some of the same trips we did with the Tackle Warehouse guys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because those are really, I like watching those. I mean, I watched that.
That's always a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's really close in age, really, and this new trend in fishing is really cool. Fishing's a thing now, and I remember growing up, and not everyone fished, and I guess not everyone really talked about it. Of course, social media has got the ability to put it in front of more people.
Yeah.
But there's this like cool trend of fishing where you see young kids with skateboards riding down to the water to go cast, not to go skate somewhere. And it's really cool to see, and especially working the shows and seeing this younger generation of kids who, I think a lot of them can't even drive yet. They're spending their their allowance or whatever, leaf freaking money they earned up.
I wish I could get my
So it's
fucking
kind of
kid to
fun,
rake
man.
some
And,
leaves.
knowing that, like, and seeing things of all different price points, there's a customer at every price point level, but for the mass of people, fishing's a hobby. It's not a necessity item, to a degree, I guess. Yes, it absolutely is. But in abundance, like it's hard and sometimes for people to have the extra cash.
Yeah.
To buy a higher price point. And we tried to come up with things that, for the everyday guy, it's in the wheelhouse, affordable, but you get good performance.
Yeah, you're trying to keep a standard too. You don't want to just put out, anything. I get what you're saying completely.
Yeah, man. So yeah, please, for the people listening, go check out the rods. I know it's taken us a lot of time for having retail locations for feeling them in hand and in person.
Do you guys sell online too?
No, we're not selling the rods online ourselves.
Okay.
We're leaving that up to the retailers,
which is cool.
They support us, and right now we're still trying to figure a lot of things out.
Yeah, I bet, man. Having a company and doing that, I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, like I said, the only person I really talked to was Newman, and I've watched iRod a little bit just because I know a couple guys that kind of help out with them, and it looks like a lot of work, dude.
Yeah, and it's never done the same way by anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, circumstances considered. But that's been kind of one of the absolute best things I got out of working for Master and Jerry Rodstein was, hearing the old stories, man. I mean, this industry was buck wild back in the day, man. I mean, there weren't so many competitors, but you were just able to do different things, man. There was one point in time where Jerry and his brother introduced these rods they called the Gator Tails, and we still offer these rods called Gator Tails. They're solid tip rods, so they're like an ugly stick. They're very durable rods at an affordable price point. Fiberglass, tubular blank to solid tip, and they left them unsanded at the tip, and with that poly tape under the paint had the appearance of what they called a gator tail. And so when they dubbed them the Gator Tails, Jerry came up with the idea of giving out baby alligators to their customers and, publishers or magazine people,
Yeah.
and sent live alligators to people's offices and to help market the rods. And I got some classic old photos of them in the office with all these baby alligators.
Dude.
And
like not a handler. Do you just did the handler come and bring them?
They
know what I'm saying?
bought them. I can't remember what country they bought them from. But this was back when you were able to get things through. I mean,
Yeah,
I
customs
don't
and stuff.
know how or the details, but they showed up, and Jerry said they opened the crates and there was like a 30% kill rate or something like that. Like,
Oh my God.
dead
dude.
on arrival. And they were very small at first, and so they had to feed them. And I think they were feeding them goldfish, and they started to grow really fast. And
Dude.
so they started boxing them up and shipping them out to individual people. And
Throwing them in the lakes. Next thing you know.
yeah, and there were some retailers in middle of America. One old timer came up to me at ICAST, and we have a backdrop on our ICAST booth of this old photo with the gators, and he says, my dad had one of those. Got to be 12 feet long. We kept it in the yard.
Oh shit.
And it was just kind of funny. It makes you think. You see all these gators on TV. You wonder how many maybe came from Jerry and his brother.
There you go. Right. just doing promotional shit the way you needed to do it back then.
Yeah, there was a point in time too where Leon Todd worked for Jerry, and his brother. And at one time, he was actually the president of Master Fishing Tackle before he started CalStar.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
some history, dude. And you've been involved in a lot of this just from your dad to this,
just through association, and it took me a long time to really appreciate the experiences that I had. And, it was probably eye-opening when I became a rep, and, everyone's, telling me about, their experiences with my father. And we still have a lot of my father's friends are industry people, reps, previous factory personnel, what have you, vendor personnel. And this industry is very tight, man. It's fishing is something that's common ground for just about every walk of life, so sorry, something just popped in. I got this app on my phone.
No problem.
Shit.
That's what we're learning. You're the test out for this whole thing, because I never really do these at all. So this is kind of like the first call-in kind of deal,
Yeah, I just had to turn something off, man.
No problem.
Sorry. Yeah. So I was talking about Leon working at Master, and oh yeah, just the industry as a whole, man. It's like you see one guy working for one company 1 year, and the next year he's somewhere else, and from top down, I mean, retailers,
there's no way to really
industry.
To stop that if you. That's kind of Why,
it's
do
tight,
you think people?
tight-knit,
do you think
man.
people jump around for a reason, or it's just kind of like you got to do what you got to do?
No,
what I'm saying?
I don't think so. I mean, to each his own,
Uh-huh.
I mean, different circumstances for everybody. But what I'm trying to say is, you look at the Fred Hall show, man, and you see all different people there that do fishing in a different way. And
Yeah.
fishing's such a big word. When you start breaking it up and looking at the different, regions, what species people fish, fly fish, conventional, saltwater, freshwater. At the end of the day, everyone fishes,
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So it's just been unique being able to see the industry to where I am now, to where I came from, and just loving to fish, loving to hunt, and being a kind of outdoorsy kind of upbringing. It's good to see people doing that.
Yeah.
Get back into it.
So if someone wants to reach out to you, they can just for Ritual, either you or Reynolds or Spicer, I'm sure on the page. Do you help
if you got
run that,
route
or does it-
inquiries, definitely send them my way, or anything. We'll get it to the right person. ritualrods@gmail.com. That'll get you rod information, or even if you got warranty questions, please hit me up there. I'll most likely answer that. Master Fishing is just Pat Schlauch at Gmail.
Sounds good, dude. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate you being on the first phone interview. And check out.
I hope I didn't ramble too
No,
much.
not at all, dude. Not at all. I'm learning. Look I fucked this up by letting the Pro Tools mess up, but thanks for having patience with me, and I hope you guys like this one. And I think we're gonna do a combo. We'll do this and Jared together, since it's part
Rad.
of one deal. So the next drive, keep listening, and we're gonna hear Jared Lintner next. So that's their pro staff, and he's gonna actually come on the podcast and do a call in. So thanks, guys, for listening.
Hey, thanks, Nick.
All right, I guess we have Jared Lintner on. I want to tell him about my favorite pizza place. Was it called Klondike's? Is that what's called?
Klondike's.
Oh, my buddy Dennis lives in Arroyo Grande, and every time I go up there, we go to that place and get the fettuccine. I think it's like the white sauce pizza. I'm not sure which one it is.
Yeah, I like that. They make one called the Roadkill. It's really good.
Yeah, that place is great, and it's a cool town. I like going up there and doing. I've surf fished up there once before.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, surf fishing's really good. Actually, I heard from a buddy of mine that was surf fishing the other day that some guys are catching like 15 to 20 pound stripers right off the beach.
Oh my gosh, you guys' perch up there is huge too, right?
Yeah. They get. He caught a couple in the 2.5 pound range the other day.
Oh my gosh, that's huge.
Mm-hmm. It's just been, this week's been. I was wanting to go, but it's been so windy, the offshore winds and stuff. I mean, it's blowing bad, so it kind of messes with the currents and all that, you know.
Yeah. And now you got a break, right? Because no MLF right now, right?
Yeah, we're kind of on hold right now. I was supposed to fly out Sunday to head to North Carolina, but they postponed that one. And we're just kind of, like I said, in a holding pattern. We don't, they don't want to jump the gun and say this one's canceled, that one's canceled, because who knows when the restrictions and everything, kind of starts getting back to normal,
Did they cancel it because they closed the lakes, or was it because just MLF is like, we don't want to do it and take any chances?
Well, I mean, from what they told us, it was, we were going to go into Raleigh, Durham, which is, a pretty big area, a lot of people, a lot of guys were going to have to stay in hotels and things like that. And Raleigh, Durham basically, pretty much shut down the ramps and stuff. The Armored Corps engineers that takes care of a lot of the ramps, and they just didn't want, extra possible problems to happen. It's for everybody's safety and stuff like that. The fishing aspect of it, I don't think is that much of an issue, because the way the format of Major League Fishing is, you have a boat official, and if you're doing well, or different circumstances, you're going to have a camera guy. But on a 21-foot boat, obviously you can still stay 6 feet apart and you can kind of isolate yourself, but it's just the traveling aspect of it, I think, is what caused us to postpone, because there's guys coming from California, guys coming from Florida, guys coming from New York, everywhere. So it's kind of like, we can't do that.
Yeah. I mean, and you were fishing at the time when it kind of hit California a little harder.
Yeah.
So you probably didn't even know like what was going on, where you get home and it's kind of like, oh man.
No, well, what happened is I was actually in this little town called Quitman, Texas. So it just it's about 80 miles east of Dallas, right there below Lake Fork. And Carrie, my wife, actually flew out and surprised me. And she's like, yeah, there's this crazy, Corona thing going on. And I was like, what are you even talking about? Because where I was at, there's, like I said, a little small Texas town. And I mean, nothing out of the ordinary was happening. Everything was normal. People weren't talking about it. I mean, nobody was talking about it. Well, and then as the week progressed, I think she flew in on Wednesday, and then by like Friday, it was like, oh my gosh, look what's happening in New York. Look what's happening in California. And all these rumors started flying around. I'm like, holy smokes. And we're both back in Texas. Our kids are at home. My older son was at Boise State at the university, and we're like, we got to get back home. I mean, it happened that quick.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, right at Fred Hall, I was at Fred Hall, and I mean, Shimano wasn't there.
Yep.
I heard it was really slow compared to the previous years, of people.
Yeah, I really didn't, kind of grasp it, because we were, like I said, we were in this little tiny town, and we didn't have cable television, so we were watching like YouTube stuff, on the Roku or whatever that thing is, Roku, whatever that is. And we were watching that and just kind of getting little news updates here and there. And then when I left my truck and my boat at a friend of mine's house right there in Texas, and we got a car rental, and we drove to DFW, huge airport right there in Dallas.
Yeah.
And driving into the town, this was like at 4:00 in the afternoon. I was like, yeah, we better leave early because of traffic. It's not as bad as Los Angeles, but it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
We're driving in there, and like, there's hardly anybody around. I'm like, this is kind of weird, And we get to the airport, get back return the car rental, walk straight into TSA, like straight front of the line. I like nobody in there.
Dude.
Walked right through there. It took us like 3 minutes. Went into the terminal, which is huge, like LAX. And there's like 100 people, like just sitting around. Like I was like, holy crap, this is weird. I mean, it's kind of eerie. You know, there's like 25 people on our flight. And I was like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I only ask you because I saw you kind of traveling. I don't want to be a downer, Debbie Downer, and talk about this. Everyone's hearing about it all the time, but I kind of was interested because I follow you on Instagram, and I kind of seen your story, and you're kind of like coming back at it later. So that's kind of why I asked you. You know what your perception was of it so far, but let's talk about fishing. Let's talk about something a little more lighthearted, huh?
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, it's a serious deal, and I just hope that people don't, totally, think this is the end of the world and all that. I mean, it's very serious, and it's obviously a epidemic, but I think everybody will get through it, and you just stay safe and be smart.
Wash your hands.
We'll get through it, man. We'll get back to fishing. Unfortunately, my freaking boat is still in Texas with my truck. So now I'm looking at it going, well, who knows how long we're going to fish. So I might get a car rental rather than getting on a plane and drive back there, grab my boat and truck and drive back.
Yeah, you might have to. You might have to.
I mean, I'm going kind of stir crazy. At least if I have my boat here, I could be working on tackle and, organizing and doing stuff like that. But right now I'm trimming trees and pretty much figuring out what's for dinner. That's the big thing of the day.
Oh, same here, man. It's that and getting the Traeger out, right? You're a Traeger guy too.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. We as soon as we got back the next day, well, when I was in Texas, I called a butcher friend of mine and I'm like, hey, I need to order some stuff. He's like, yeah, you and everybody else. So we drove up there. We landed on Wednesday night. We drove up there Thursday, and we picked up like, I don't know how many pounds of tri-tip and chicken and bacon, all kinds of stuff. So we're pretty much set up. So yeah, that's the question of the day. Are we having chicken, beef, or pork today? It's a big toss-up. So today I'm going to do some chicken actually on my oak pit because I haven't had my oak pit fired up in a long time.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, that sounds kind of different. Good.
So how's your season going so far for you?
The fork was my best finish so far.
Mm-hmm.
The first two events, I mean, I'd never had been to Lake Eufaula in Alabama, and I read about it, and I've seen tournament results, and we're not in our format. We're not allowed to talk to anybody that's once the schedule is released. We can't even, if you know somebody, you can't go, hey man, are the fish biting? You can't even ask that question, let alone get waypoints or any kind of information. So, and that being said, I'd never have been that kind of guy just because being from California, I don't know that many people. And I've learned that even locally, right? If a guy tells me, hey man, they're biting this red crankbait at Lopez and in this side of the lake, 9 times out of 10, you can go out there and throw that red crankbait exactly where he's talking about and not catch him.
Right.
I mean, it's just the way it is. It's very hard to catch other people's fish. And that's what I've learned that throughout the years, fishing pro-ams and different things, even at the Delta, Clear Lake, like I said, my home lakes, and guys will be like, oh man, you got to go up into Rodman and flip a blue jig on this certain type of tree. And you're okay, man. So you go buy all these jigs, you go up there, you never get bit. And then you go do what you are confident in doing in the areas you're confident in. And guess what? You catch fish. So
do you think that applies to maybe just because my uncle, I always talk about my uncle, he's a bass club guy. So he's told me the same thing, and mm-hmm. He's actually gave his rod to the guy on the boat with him, the co-angler, and be like, try it. And it still doesn't work. Do you think it's just how you present it? And it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like you just can't match someone else's perfect presentation 100%.
Well, I think that as well as, I mean, I don't care what you're throwing, mainly with bass fishing, but I seen it also with crappie here recently before I went to Fort. But
mm-hmm.
if you're not confident in what you're throwing and what you're doing, and you kind of get a feel for what the fish are doing, how to present that bait, like you said, or how, what little subtle action, or if they don't want any action, whatever it is, and you get confident in what you're doing. And it's hard to give the guy, like you said, here, take my rod, and dude, they're biting this. Well, he might catch one, but he's not gonna be as proficient as you are, because you're dialed in, you're confident in it, you know exactly what's going on. I fished with lots of guys, in my career, different team partners and pro-am events and things like that. And I mean, I've just learned to stay kind of, true to yourself and what you feel on the water, whatever given circumstances there are. And I don't think there's a wrong approach to do that. I mean, certainly, in a tournament setting or whatever, you might not win that day, because somebody else figured out the right exact pattern or something like that.
Yeah.
But you got to look at it like, the next tournament, that might be your bite. So you can't go chasing all these different patterns and different things you hear, the dock talk type things. I mean, over my career, I was with BASS for, I think, 14 years, 13 or 14 years. And I fell into that, some of my roommates would be like, dude, they're biting a Carolina rig lizard on this, on the, main lake ledges. Okay. I'd go out there and try it, dude, and nothing. And I'd go do what I want to do, and I'd be fine.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I think, a lot of guys, take that dock talk way, way too seriously. Now, there's nothing wrong with, watching vlogs or watching videos on, how to throw a jig or how to, drop shot or whatever it may be, what guys use for crankbaits, whatever. But you still have to go out there and fish it yourself and see what works for you. All I can do, like when I do my Tackle Warehouse vlogs and stuff like that, I just talk, I never say you need to do this. I say, this is what I do. It works for me, and here's some different ideas that you can either take it and apply it and try it or not. It's totally up to you. I mean, fishing is one of those things there's no right or wrong answer every time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, even so when you talk about not getting any waypoints or anything, because, that's the rules of MLF, what's the first thing you want to do? Cause you got to think of your style, I guess, when you're going onto that lake. Do you kind of look at maps and go, okay, well, I'm going to hit this section for a little while. Do you have a go-to bait, a search bait? Is it a spinner bait, or is it,
Yeah, that's a great question, because throughout my career I've been to lakes where I've couldn't even pronounce the names of, let alone tell you which state they're in. And the way I kind of do things is I always try to get a paper map, first of all, old school paper map, which now everything's kind of online, but I like having that just to kind of reference it, and then I'll get on my graphs. I got, the Garmin stuff, and it's really good, detail. And I'll kind of find out, depending on the time of year, if it's pre-spawn, spring, post-spawn, summertime, whatever. And a bass is a bass. It doesn't matter if it's in New York or in California or anywhere in between. They still kind of follow the same type of patterns. There's a lot of variation in habitats. Like in Florida, I mean, shoot, the deepest lake I've ever fished there, I think, is 15 foot.
Wow.
So I mean, it's not like, my home lake here, Lopez, where it's 110 feet at the deepest part.
Yeah.
And it's all full of rock. Well, but they all still follow the same type of patterns. You look for the same type of, spawning bays, or, where they're going to go post spawn. And you kind of get an idea, okay, this section of the lake, based on my map, my paper map, and then my graphs, my electronics, with the mapping and all the avionics stuff on it. This has everything that a fish should need in these areas. Now, until you get there and visibly see it, it might be there's nothing in the water for them to hold on. You don't know. I mean, until you actually see it. And Google Earth nowadays is a fantastic tool, because that's the next step I'll take. Once I identify, okay, this section of the lake, it's got these 2 creeks or whatever it may be. It's got these flats. It's got this. It's got this. Now I'll get on Google Earth and go, okay, what does the shoreline look like? Is there standing timber in the lake? Is there vegetation that you can see? Because you can zoom in, even on your TV. If you have a smart TV, Google Earth and run your phone through it, and you can zoom in and go, okay, there's bushes, there's laydowns, or, there's grass or whatever. And then you can kind of, without visibly seeing it, you kind of go, okay, I like this area. So I'm going to go look at this the first day. And then, and then if that works out, that's cool. I'll stay in that area maybe the second day of practice and kind of more fine tune it. Or go, okay, it looks great, everything's here, but the fish aren't biting, they're not here. I'm going to go, I go from one extreme to the other. Because what I've found is the fish are generally in sections of the lakes, especially these big lakes that we fish back east, that I kind of go, I third the lake up. So, if I chose to fish in the upper third of the lake, I'll go to the bottom third of the lake if the fish weren't biting in that section of the lake I didn't feel, and I'll go to the extreme and go try that other side, that other end or whatever it may be, and kind of utilize the same techniques, the same patterns, maybe, obviously some adjustments if day one was totally a disaster. But that is one thing I've learned fishing back east, as opposed to a lot of California lakes like Lopez, even like Clear Lake, Diamond Valley. I mean, our lakes are smaller, but I think fish are everywhere in our lakes.
Yeah.
Like Lopez Lake, there's 2 arms of it basically. There's the same amount of fish I feel in one arm as well as the next arm. I mean, there's the same amount of fish, but sometimes they'll be biting better in one arm or the next just because of the water clarity or the temperature, or if there's an algae bloom, something like that. So I kind of took that mentality and transferred it back there on a bigger scale.
Yeah. And so how many of the times, like you say you make your plan, like what you just talked about, how many times do you go to run and you find the guy there already and you're like, damn, Well,
yeah. Well, the lake, like I said, like a lot of these lakes back there, many of them are so vast and so big that you really can't. It's not like going to Lake Casitas, I guess.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah,
going to the last creek by the dam, and there's 2 boats in there. I mean, the whole Lake Casitas would be half the size of one small creek at some of these lakes.
Wow.
So in these third sections I'm talking about, there's so much water there that with even 200 boats, you could still, go, okay, well, I wanted to start there, but I'm going to go over here and I'll work my way back there. Or, that's never been an issue. Now it has been an issue. Like, somehow these guys are so amazing that nothing is left unfound. Even like with Major League Fishing, we only have a day and a half of practice, basically. Nothing is left unfound. So you may think you found the special little brush pile or this little rock vein, and you're like, man, nobody's going to find that. And you'll go run in there, and there'll be guys sitting on it. You're like, oh my gosh. So in that case, that's why you have other, you can't, I've never been the type of person going, I'm just going to go to that spot right there and I'm going to fish it all day and I'm going to win the tournament, just because it might be a local angler or one of your competitors beat you there. And then what are you doing? You got all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
So, you try to establish a few different patterns, as well as a few different types of areas and habitats where you can get bites. And with our format now also is we fish in groups, which I'm sure you've read about, where Group A fishes, say, Friday, Group B fishes Saturday, and so you have days off. So really our tournaments are a week long, and especially this time of year, like at Fork, I'll give you a perfect example. In practice, the areas that I practiced in, I had several nice bites that I shook off. I've seen some of them, and they were like pre-spawners. By the time, because I was in Group B, by the time my tournament day started, I couldn't get bit where I was trying to catch them because they all went to the bank, started spawning the same fish. They had to have, because I think I had one bite doing what I was doing, flipping the outside trees and stumps and things like that way out off the bank, like not way out, probably 100 yards off the bank. And I never have, the whole first period, I think I had like one bite, and I'm like, what is going on? Now I slid up by the bank and they're all spawning. So just like that, it changed.
Yeah.
So you got to be willing, and able to, and trust your instincts to adapt to that, to be like, all right, this is what I was doing, but it's not working anymore. I got to, what would I normally do? If I was out fun fishing or just trying to catch bass, what would I do if I was just out here to have fun? And 9 times out of 10, that works. If you let yourself do that, if I would have kept doing what I was doing in practice, I wouldn't have done well in that tournament at all.
Wow. Yeah. And when you're practicing, here's another question I have. If you say you start catching some good fish there and you have a guy next to you or someone fishing by you, will you like try to keep the rod down so the dude doesn't see you going, oh, he's catching over there? You know what I'm saying?
In practice, kind of my rule of thumb is like when I get into an area, if I'm by myself, nobody's watching or, nobody's fishing near me, I'll set the hook on like maybe the first 1 or 2 I get bit by, just to kind of see the size, and looking at the fish, especially this time of year, it lets you know a lot, like pre-spawn, if they are spawning or if they're post-spawn, and the size too, right? I mean, because at many of these lakes, pretty much all our lakes in California, you might get into an area, and like Lopez, I went out to Lopez the other day before Fork, and there were certain areas where you would only catch a pound to 2 pound fish. And, you go to another area and the first couple bites you get were 3.5 to 4.5 pounders. And you're like, okay, the better fish are over here, or the females are biting here, not over there. Then after that, after I kind of, catch 1 or 2, I'll roll my hooks over, or if I'm throwing a reaction bait, I'll bend my trebles over. And then I got these little hook guards that I made out of wire. I take the copper wiring out of like a 10 gauge wire or 8 gauge wire.
Yeah.
And I'll pull the wiring out and snip the little rubber housing off and cover my hooks, like a spinner bait, a chatter bait, a buzz bait, or whatever, anything with a single hook. And you'd be shocked at how many fish you actually shake off, and then the very next day you go back and you get to bite.
Wow.
I mean, so I try not to catch a lot of fish in practice, especially in our format now, where every legal 2 pound fish counts. So
yeah,
you don't want to go out there and catch. You don't want to be the guy that wins practice. Oh, dude, I had 35 fish today. Okay. Well, let's see how you do tomorrow. Oh, I only caught 3. Well, maybe you should have saved them for the tournament, maybe. So, but I mean, it's very kind of, it kind of sucks. I mean, it does, shaking them off, because inevitably, something happens with the weather or something like that, and they change anyway. But, I'm one of those that's like, if I catch a 10 pounder, the odds of me catching that same 10 pounder the very next day is not good. If I stick a hook in it and wrestle it around and let it go. And I mean, the fish isn't hurt, but you educated it,
right. Yeah.
It's never a good thing. So I try, I try not to catch as many fish as possible in practice.
Yeah. Yeah. And, yeah, that's a good point, man. I mean, even the hook guard thing's really good. I mean, with the piece of wire on a spinnerbait too. I mean,
and that's something. what happened is Jackal, a sponsor of mine, their bladed jigs, it's called a brake blade. You can only get them in Japan, unfortunately. They come with this little, like a wire guard. And I'm like, dang, man. So I was saving those, like, you know, taking them off and like had a little stash of them. I'm like, what would be like that? Well, I was doing something with my boat trailer a couple of years back, and I pulled some wire and it came out of that housing. And I'm like, dude, that is perfect for that. So you can cut it to whatever length you want. Like right now on my boat in Texas, I got probably, I don't know, a 3-foot piece of that I just keep in my rod locker. And
Yeah.
you just take a pair of scissors, cut the housing, you know, a little plastic part, slide it over your hook, and you won't hook them.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's
But
a good
you got to
tip.
remember to take it off before the tournament.
Have you ever left it on accident?
I haven't. I'm really kind of a freak about all that. Like my wife goes crazy. Like when she was in Texas and I was getting ready for the tournament the next day, and I had my rods all in there and I'm sharpening hooks. She's like, "Oh my gosh! I mean, do you do this stuff like, you know, all the time?" I'm like, "Well, you know, the way I look at it is like this: you got a lot of money on the line.
Mm-hmm.
You got, you know, you can only control a certain amount of things, and I am not going to sacrifice losing a fish or a tournament or anything like that over some fishing line or a hook that was, you know, that had a little bend in it. Or I want everything perfect because, like I said, those are the things I can control. I can't control the weather. I can't control lake fluctuation. I can't control, you know, the water temperatures and all that. So I want to be prepared and ready for any possible situation to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that includes like with my ritual rods, right? I mean, I don't do it every day, but I'd say before every tournament, I'll just take a cotton swab and wipe the ceramic, you know, guides
Mm-hmm.
on the end, you know, through your guides, because one little nick in those guides, you know, if you're hung up on a stump or whatever it may be, and you're shoving your rod tip down there, which you shouldn't do, but we all do it, and you nick a guide, it's going to slice fluorocarbon like nothing you ever seen.
How many times have you actually found, oh, I got a good nick on the guide?
I'll probably find 3 or 4 of them a year.
That's a big deal.
That is from, you know, shoving my rod in the water, getting my crankbaits unhung off a stump or a tree limb or something like that. And even, you know, banging around the rod lockers, stuff like that. I mean, stuff happens, you know. But yeah, Aaron Martin's taught me that probably, I don't know, it's probably been 10, 12 years ago.
Wow.
When I first started the elites, right around that time frame. So at that point I was camping with Greg Gutierrez, and Aaron Martin's was with his trailer and stuff next to us. And I've seen him sitting out there with these Q-tips. I'm like, what is he doing now, man? I mean, he's always got something going on. So I walked over there and I was like, what are you doing? He's like, yeah, dude, check this thing out. Watch this. And he showed me, and I'm like, yeah, big deal. What are you cleaning your guides? All right, cool. He's like, no, look, dude, look what I found. And he did that, you know, and the cotton or the Q-tip, the little cotton part of it, got caught on something. He's like, yeah, dude, I had to replace this guide. I could have sliced off, you know, my whatever I was throwing on there. I'm like, dude, that's a great point. You know?
100%.
So like I said, I don't do it like meticulously like every day, but I'll do it, you know, especially on the rods I know I'm going to be fishing in that tournament. Takes, I don't know, 10 seconds per rod.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, those are the things I can control. You know, there's lots of variables you can't.
Yeah. No, it makes sense 100%. I think that's a great idea. And like you said, you're controlling everything you can in your hands.
Right.
100%. Mm-hmm. So your wife is very supportive, man. I can see that on Instagram.
Yes.
How is it doing the switchover? So how old were your kids when you became a professional and actually did this full time?
Well, let's see. So I started fishing the elites in 2006, I think, 2005. So up until that point, I delivered milk full time for a family business. And 2005 was the last year actually of the Bassmaster Western Opens out here. And I actually got Angler of the Year in that.
Wow.
And I was still working, full time. We had a tournament at Clear Lake, a tournament at Delta, a tournament at Shasta. And I fished local stuff and deliver milk, and life was good. I won Clear Lake, and I was on top of the world. Well, before I even got home from Clear Lake, my wife bought a house. I'm like, we didn't win the lottery. Like, we didn't win $1 million here. But anyway, she bought this house, and I'm like, okay, whatever, just fishing. Well, I got the call or a letter in the mail actually from Bass saying I qualified for this Elite Series, and I said no, I can't. I mean, can't just leave my job.
Yeah.
And at that point we had Elise and JC, and I was like, I can't just Elise was she was born in 98, so it was 8 years old, and JC was 4.
Wow.
4 or 5. I'm like, I can't, this is too much. And so I didn't sign up. The deposit date came and went, and I'm like, yeah, whatever,
Yeah.
that's fine. Well, Carrie, my wife, had signed me up.
Oh my God.
Paid our deposit, said you're going. So, that was the hardest part, that first run. Back then we had 11 regular tournament schedule. So I left, I want to say mid-February, and I was gone till mid-April.
Gosh.
Because we had back to back to back to back. I mean, it was crazy. And that's been the hardest part. I've missed a lot of baseball games and basketball games and, back to school nights and all that stuff. And that's honestly been the hardest part is not being there for those. But that being said, when I am home,
100%, right?
I could do all those things all day,
Yeah, that's the thing that I could see is when I do talk. I have a lot of friends that play in bands and might go on tour and stuff. And same thing, when they're home, they're 100% in with the kids and the family. There's
Right.
not anything else to do because you're gone doing your job, which is fishing, and then you're home 100% with the kids.
Yeah.
Which is still, I always wonder, it's like making that big jump. It
was, and even at that, that was first, I would say, 3-4 years. I would, go back and fish. And then I had a guy that our family trusted. He would do my job, basically run my milk route.
Wow.
And then I would fly back home. If I got eliminated from a tournament, I would leave my truck and boat wherever, fly back home, jump in the milk truck the next day, deliver milk up until the next tournament date, go back. So I did that for like 3 years, and I was just getting I had some success, and I was obtaining more sponsors. But then obviously your job for a sponsor is not only fish the tournament. That's what everybody's like, oh yeah, you get all these sponsors, and that's awesome. I mean, without my sponsors, I couldn't do this. But I didn't feel like it was right for me to go, you know what, I can't go work that or do that for you because I got to go deliver milk. So I was like, kind of,
you felt like you
not
weren't
doing what I needed to be doing for my sponsors, like Tackle Warehouse and, the other ones I had at the time. I said, I can't continue to do this. I got to do one or the other.
Yeah, which makes sense. And you feel like your fishing was being affected because you couldn't focus 100%. You were thinking, man, I got to get back to my milk truck.
Yeah, those first 5 years, like that, my rookie season, I actually did really, really well. I was I think I finished, I don't know, top 5 in the points for my rookie year, which was I was blown away. And then the next year was a total disaster. Like I finished like 70th in the points or 80th or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that's when at first everything was kind of so new, and I was so excited to fish Lake Amistad, to go to see Santee Cooper. And I kind of treated it for lack of better terms, like a vacation, because I didn't foresee myself being in this more than a year or two. I thought, I was just going to do this and kind of get it out of my system, so to speak, or not requalify. I don't really know what my mindset was at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't think it was going to be a career for me. And so the more kind of involved and in depth and I grew in this, I was like, holy smokes, man. Now I got, she was pregnant with Jaden, and I'm running the milk route, and I'm flying back to go to Clark's Hill, for 6 days for a tournament, and fly right back home and deal with my kids, and she's not feeling well. There's a lot of mental battles. Even we have that even today. My son, he's in Boise State, just went and made a bandit trip up there and picked him up last week. So we got home. And I mean, you're concerned about him up there. My daughter, she's off doing her thing. Jaden, he's in baseball and he's got all these activities, and you're like, it's still, for all the guys, even in bands and fishermen. And I mean, I'm looking at it going, man, how do these like professional athletes, like these NBA guys, they go, I mean, they're gone 2 or 3, 4 nights every week, but I guess when they're home. I mean,
what do you do? Because I mean, a lot of guys that probably listen to this, it's like, my therapy is fishing. Now your job is fishing. So for you, what do you do to like decompress, man? I mean,
well, I mean, like when I get home from a tournament now, I'll just kind of chill out for a couple days. Like I kind of just lock myself in the house. I mean, even despite all this stuff we got going on, but like generally speaking, when I've come home after a couple tournaments in a row or whatever, I'll just kind of want to chill out around the house, turn on my Traeger, just kind of veg out, just kind of like decompress, see what the kids got going on and things like that. And then after about 2 or 3 days, I'm like, I gotta go fishing. I mean, whether it's surf perch fishing here on the beach or rock fishing when the season's open, or I love going out to just Lopez. Like many times I borrow my buddies' boats and I'll just go out there, because the cell phones didn't work out there. Now they do. But they put a cell tower out there, and so now I can't even go out there and have the excuse of my phone doesn't work. Well, I just go out there and fish for crappie, bass, just whatever, and just kind of, there's no pressure. Like I'm not going, man, if I don't catch this many pounds, I'm not going to make a check. I don't have to worry about, all these other things. I'm just out there fishing like I used to do before it was quote unquote a job. I mean, I love that it is my job, but along with that, like I never dreamed. I was one of those guys that said, Denny Brower and Gary Klein and all these guys that I'm watching on TV, Jay Ellis, they got the life, man. They just drive around, they catch all these big fish, and make all this money. Man, they're so lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, but it is a job, and that's what I've learned is it's not just, I guess what I'm saying is we are only seeing the the TV shows or the live tournament, where you're catching fish. None of the other stuff is being, shown really, and it doesn't need to be. But, you're driving freaking from California to Florida, staying in crappy hotels, eating bad food when you have, I bring my little portable Traeger now. And,
I've seen that.
So I cook a lot on the road, but there's all these other things that you don't really think about. And I think that's the same to be said for, all the professional athletes, a lot of our military people, the sacrifices that they make on a daily basis. You don't ever really see that, and I've learned like, man, this kind of sucks. I mean,
the reason that
the fishing part is yes, by far the greatest thing. It's the best thing I could ever ask for. but all the other little things, I mean, they just kind of, it's like, man, this isn't cool.
I read Ike Anelli's book. I forgot which one it was. And that's what I kind of asked those questions, because in his book, he kind of talks about the grind of driving in between, different tournaments and like eating like crap, at the time, and, whatever it might be. So it's cool to hear from you kind of that part of the tournament series, because I'm sure dudes don't know that. People don't know that, Let's talk about Ritual a little bit. So that's a local company to me and some of the listeners down here, with Pat and Justin and Randy. When did you hook up with them?
Well, so Pat, I don't know, probably 6, 7, 8 years ago, he was a rep for a company, and I kind of heard about this infamous Pat through my friends at Tackle Warehouse, and they're like, yeah, this guy, and we became friends. And then he repped for the same company that I was a sponsor of. He helped me get involved in all that, and we became really good friends. And then throughout the course of everything, he introduced me to Justin and Randy. But actually, I had known them before. This is a weird story. They came up for to Lopez Lake. Benny Florentino, actually, when he was working down here in the Rio Grande area, he put on a St. Jude's benefit tournament out here at Lopez.
Oh, wow.
Well, Randy and Justin came down to do kind of the filming for, I forget the name of the TV show. It's Inside Sport Fishing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Inside Sport Fishing. And they actually like filmed me and my partner Nick fishing and stuff. So I knew them, but I didn't really know them. It was kind of a weird deal. And so when Pat had the opportunity to move to a different job, and where he's currently at, we started toying with this idea of, dude, let's, you know a lot about rods. You know what you like. I kind of have the resources to make this happen. What do you think? And between all four of us, we had many meetings, and some of them were good, some of them weren't so good. We did some fishing, and we just kind of came up with this game plan. We put together some rods and, did some sampling. That was the hardest, kind of longest part, was be like, okay, man, what do you think about this? Yeah, it's okay, but well, what do you think about this? Yeah, we need to change this. And it got frustrating because of the time issue and the investment.
Yeah. But
at the same time, my whole thing with Ritual is look, I'm not gonna fish with something that other people, in other words, if I'm fishing with Ritual rods, I truly 100% believe in these rods, and that is the best in my opinion. And that's going to be the same rod you can go to the store and buy. Not oh, Jared's got these rods, but they're selling these other ones.
Yeah, no, I get it.
So I wanted them perfect for I mean, all of our names are on them, and there's a lot of pride and satisfaction in that people are taking these actions of rods, going out, catching fish, and it's cool. I mean, it's a really, really it's a humbling yet satisfying experience.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing. And like, even to this day, Pat and I talk on a regular basis, and I'll be like, yeah, man, well, what do you think about, maybe we should come up with a spinning rod for, when you go up north, these guys are fishing these great big smallmouth in this deeper water, current and all this stuff. We need a heavier action spinning rod. Okay, well, what's that going to take? Well, we need to get a sample kind of going and different things like that. And it's kind of cool to be in that side of things, as opposed to going, here's this rod, this is what we designed it for, go out and fish with it.
Yeah.
Now I could go, you know what, dude? It's nice and it's kind of right, but if we did this, it would be perfect. okay, Jared, well, let me go try to make these changes. And he gets pissed at me. But ultimately, I mean, we're building a really, really good product at a really affordable price. I mean, rods, it's kind of weird how the rod market has been over the past, I'd say, 10 years. There's been real high spikes and huge, like, $300, $400, $500, $600, $700 rods. And then all of a sudden it went down to, there was a bunch of rods in the $80 to, or $60 to $100 rods.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of like everybody, is like, man, let's get it at a more affordable, price. I mean, it's a fishing rod. I mean, that's what it all comes down to. Is you still got to have the sensitivity and the backbone or whatever for that application. But we're just trying to make a real premium product at an affordable price, and I think we're doing a good job of it. Of course, I'm biased, but I really like the rods. I mean, people. When I was at Quitman, Texas, where my boat's at, this guy comes up to me. He's like, "You mind if I look at your rods?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, they're right there." I was getting gas, and I said, "They're right there on my deck." And he's like looking at him. He's like, "Oh." He's like, "Well, yeah, these are the same rods that my buddy or somebody, I forget, his cousin or something.
Yeah,
it's the same one." I'm like, "Yeah." Well, I figured you were throwing something different. I'm like, "Why, dude?" I go, "I designed them.
Yeah.
Why would I do that?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "Well, can I feel this one?" I was looking at this, and I'm like, "Yeah, dude." So I pulled over, and he went through all my rods. This guy's crazy.
Which is cool. That's super cool that you're personable like that, and some dudes might not do that. Just
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because like when I first started fishing out east, it's funny you say that. Back east, guys would be like, "Man, what's up with him?" I heard this through my buddies like McClellan and Crete and Faircloth. "What's up with Lintner?" And they ask me, and I'm like, "What are you talking about? Dude, you always look so mad." And I'm like, "What?" I think it's my mustache that it kind of almost puts a frown on my face.
Hey,
but
it's a strong mustache, very strong.
I don't know what the deal with that was, but yeah, everybody always used to be like, I don't know if I want to talk to him." Whatever.
And you grew up in Arroyo Grande, so you been around with Tackle Warehouse since the beginning.
Yeah, man, that whole thing is that's awesome. I'd tell you a quick story. So years ago, one of my best friends, he was going to Cal Poly right here in San Luis Obispo.
Mm-hmm.
And we were fishing. We fished. We were friends all the way, through high school. And we started fishing the local tournaments, little Gold Coast Bass Club. And we had aluminum Valco boats and little game fisher motors and ice chests for live wells and the whole deal. And, we were bass heads and just doing anything we could to get to the lake. Well, he goes to Cal Poly and he's stringing tennis rackets at Tennis Warehouse. And I was working for my dad doing the milk thing, and we're just fishing. Well, he basically somehow has a meeting with the powers that be, and they say, "This bass fishing thing, what is this?" And he kind of, gave him more information, and make a long story short, it turned into Tackle Warehouse.
That's wild.
Yeah,
that's
and
crazy.
It's been, before it was Tackle Warehouse, it's crazy to see it go from, an idea of, me and him just out on the lake talking about this possibility to where it is now. It's just like, wow, that really happened.
It's like Tackle Warehouse is like Amazon pretty much of fishing.
Yeah. It's a major, huge, heavy hitter, big player, and I would say when was that? I'd probably say 2004, 2003.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's, I mean, I didn't really start fishing like hard until really got into it. I was 2009. So, I mean, a lot of this, I'm late to the party, because I like I said, I played in bands, and then my kid got a fishing rod for his birthday when he was 5, and that's how I got into fishing. So it's funny, and that's why I talked about I was a big surf fisherman,
Yeah.
So that's why I talked to you about, that's what I did for like 5-6 years straight, with just surf fish.
Right.
So, and you do a little bit of that up there too. You do it all. That's cool, man.
Yeah,
that's
man.
cool.
I mean, this area that we live in, that where I'm at, I mean, we go to Lopez, Margarita, Nascimento, used to be Cachuma.
Yeah.
But basically all these lakes were within 1 hour.
Wow.
Of my house. And so, you had all these different varieties of lakes, different varieties of bass, spotted bass, Florida strain, northern strain, smallmouth. I mean, so I got to learn a lot right here. And then at the same time, like you said, my brother now owns Port San Luis Boat Harbor.
Oh, wow.
Right here. I mean, it's 15 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
The beach is 2 miles from my house, so I can go rock fishing, salmon fishing. The turkey never calls me until it's too late for the sea bass anymore. Sure, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool that there's so many different things to do right here revolving fishing that that's probably the number one question I get asked when I get back east, like in Oklahoma or wherever. California, where do you live at? I'm like, right on the coast. Oh, so you surf? How'd you get into fishing? And I'm like, dude, no, I've never surfed in my life. I don't mind it, but I just never got into it. I said, but you got the ocean, which has fish in it, and all of our lakes.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought, you guys just surfed. I'm like, no.
Oh, that's hilarious, dude.
So they're just kind of different, but yeah.
So thanks for coming on, Jared. I appreciate it. Let's give a shout out to your sponsors. That way, if anyone's listening.
Sure.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, Tackle Warehouse, Ranger Boats, Mercury Marine, Ritual Angling, Daiwa, Sunline, AFCO. You guys are down there by AFCO, aren't you?
Yeah, actually really close to AFCO.
Yeah, AFCO, EcoPro. I know I'm forgetting some. TH Marine. They make some good stuff. Shoot, I wish I had my list in front of me. But if people didn't hear about that Sunline giveaway deal I have on my Instagram, make sure check that out.
Yeah. Well, I'll post that up too when we do the episode.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, shoot, man, free shadow. Can't do nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Oh, and I got a new one, SKB cases. Man, they're getting into.
I've seen that.
Have you seen those things for the like saltwater application?
I used them my whole life for music stuff.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
That's where they originated from. But
yeah,
you got to check out their. So they make like a tackle box, and it's kind of. I think originally it was designed for saltwater application, meaning those big diamond jigs, and things like that. And the thing is, like, I think you could run it over with a truck. I mean, I wouldn't, but. Really durable and stuff like that. So I'm pretty excited about that. They want to break into the freshwater market and get some things going with that.
Great.
Hopefully we're gonna get some cool stuff going on and get after that.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for coming on. Stay safe, man, during this whole thing. Good luck on the rest of the series. Hope you do well, man.
Thanks, man. I hope we get to fish sooner than later. I'm going crazy.
All right. Thanks, Jared.
All right. Thanks for having me on, guys.
All right. Take care.
All right.